face. Well, I can relate, and you're wondering if it's worth it. Heartbroken, feeling worthless, so the hurt is too great, like a punch in the face. But don't forget, we got something else in common, bigger than all our pain and all our problems. This goes out to anyone down for the count. It's not over, don't give up, don't throw in the towel. Just remember who you belong to. Let me remind you how. Yes, we were. We get pushed down, we get beat up, so afraid life's gonna keep us up against the ropes. But hang on, there's hope, 'cause if Christ is inside us, it won't be a fair fight, 'cause deep down we know how the story goes. This goes out to anyone down for the count. It's not over, don't give up, don't throw in the towel. Just remember who you belong to. Let me remind you how. Yes, we were. Ain't no stopping us, he's not done with us. We are more than conquerors. Ain't no stopping us, he's not done with us. We are more than conquerors. Just remember who you belong to. Let me remind you how. Yes, we were. Ain't no stopping us, he's not done with us. We are more than conquerors. Ain't no stopping us, he's not done with us. We are more than conquerors. Ain't no stopping us, he's not done with us. We are more than conquerors. Ain't no stopping us, he's not done with us. We
Oh, all right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to August. It is Thursday morning, August the 1st, 2024. It's good to be together this morning. And we talked yesterday about post-millennialism, amillennialism, premillennialism. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to move into the text today. And we're going to continue. We're going to actually get into the verses of Revelation chapter 20. We're going to be going through these first three verses. Just want to remind everyone, if you wouldn't mind, if you could hit like, and then of course I see everyone commenting. It's good to see everyone together this morning. But if you could like and share, and if you're on Facebook or you're on TikTok or Instagram, be sure, if you wouldn't mind, to do the same thing with our daily bites, that you can just watch those. Hope they're encouraging to you, and hit like on that, share that wherever you can, and that'll help us as we seek to get the word of the Lord out, and just to keep our focus, our heart set on what God is calling us to be. It's so easy to let to let whatever we're seeing on television or what we're reading in newspapers or on our news apps dominate our thinking about what's going on around us. But we as the people of God are the hope of the world because of Yeshua living in us. And so when you step out your door this morning, know that you are the word of the Lord. Know that, in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, Paul calls us to talks about that we're to be the fragrance of Messiah. Let's make sure that we are emanating the beauty of his sacrificial love that pours out for others. And we're to be that fragrance among the believing and among the unbelieving, he says. Among those who are saved and those who are dying, we're to be a living fragrance of Messiah. So don't set your eyes on the mess. Carry his fragrance into the mess. Right? That's what we're called to do. That's who we're called to be. Now, we're going to be looking at Revelation chapter 20 and verses 1 through 3 this morning. The title of today's Daily Manna is The Next Phase of Evil's Certain Demise. The next phase of Satan's certain demise. Like, it's not if his demise will come. It will come, and we can hold on to that reality that his deception, which is pervading, has pervaded the world, that it will come to an end. So this final vision cycle began as heaven opened and Messiah comes in on a white horse coming to defeat his foes, and an angel summoned the birds to the battlefield. And so now an angel comes down from heaven to continue the route of evil. And he holds in his hand the keys to the abyss. Revelation 20, verse 1. Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, coming out of the heavens, holding in his hand the key to the abyss and a great chain. So keys have been mentioned a few times in Revelation, twice and ever. Moreover, I hold the keys of death and Sheol. Right? Yeshua has the keys to death and Hades, which is where the dead are kept until the final resurrection. He has the keys. And then in Revelation 3:7, come to the angel of Messiah's community in Philadelphia, right? This suffering community. He says, "Thus says the Holy One, the true one, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, and who shuts and no one opens." Right? So he has the power. He is the one who opens and no one can and shut, and he shuts and no one can open. And so we're going to see that here. And then, of course, we saw the keys that Yeshua holds. And then, of course, we saw the key to the abyss, which we see here, that was given to the star that had fallen from heaven to earth in Revelation 9. Revelation 9:1, then the fifth angel trumpeted, and I saw a star that had fallen from heaven to earth. The key to the bottomless pit, to the abyss, is the language there is in Greek. The key to the abyss was given to him. Right? So with that key, he opened the abyss and released the scorpion-like creatures. They were demons who were told to do no harm. It said, do no harm to the grass or the earth or any green plant or any tree, but only the people who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were permitted not to kill them, but to torment them for 5 months. Right? People would want death, but death would flee from them. It's like it was like a boot camp, prison boot camp for hell, to say, you don't want to end up in this place. You don't want to end up in torment for eternity. So now you're going to be, here you are, you're wanting death and it flees you, but there's a limitation here for the 5 months. So the key was given to open up and to release this demonic horde into the world. And in the abyss in Revelation is the place of the origin of these tormenting locusts, and then of course the beast that comes from it. The Lord has authority over it. He had given the key to the angel of the abyss to release those demons, but he has a spare key. He has another key. And so this angel is coming out of the heavens holding the key, and he's holding a chain as well. And so he's holding a chain, and that purpose is what we're going to see is to apprehend Satan, to confine him in chains in the abyss. And again, this is obviously, we're not talking about literal physical chains. We're talking about something that would be a chain in spiritually speaking, whatever that may be. People get funny about this. They're like, what kind of chain is this? If how do you chain up a spiritual? Come on, like it's a spiritual. I know that's none of you saying that, but sometimes I read in different commentaries, and so he's bound. Verse 2, it says, and he seized the dragon, the ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. Right? So here for a second time we get this a list of Satan's names. The dragon is the ancient serpent. He is the devil, and the devil, the diabolos, has to do with the idea of throwing through. He's the one who casts accusation. He's the one who tries to throw the accusation through. The Satan, the Satan, he is the adversary. He is the one who opposes, who is against God, is against you. So here we get his name again. We saw in chapter 12, verse 9, the great dragon was thrown down at this occasion from the heavens, the ancient serpent called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, who leads astray the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Of course, you remember, then he's thrown down to the earth. He persecuted the woman clothed with the sun, that's Israel, attempted to kill her child, that was Messiah, who was taken to God in heaven, and so he's thrown to the earth. He stalks Israel. He stalked the woman, but the Lord protected her. And then he went to make war with her offspring, those who keep the commandments of God. When he's thrown out of heaven, it says in Revelation 12:12, woe to the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you with great rage, knowing that his time is short, that he has a small amount of time. Now when the dragon saw, verse 13, when the dragon saw that he'd been thrown to the earth, he stalked or persecuted the woman who had given birth to the male child. Verse 17, so the woman became enraged so the dragon became enraged at the woman and went off to make war with the rest of her offspring, that is, those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Yeshua. And so, just like in chapter 12, we got this list of his titles. The dragon, who is the ancient serpent, he is the devil, he is Satan. In both, we're not overwhelmed by this cacophony of names, right? Because in both occasions, he was cast down. Well, here he has been seized. He has been apprehended, right? This dragon who had pretension to be like God is seized, and he's bound not by God directly, but by an unnamed angelic creature, right? Who's an angel that has the authority, that has the strength, seized him, right? And bound the dragon, apparently using this great chain that is in his hand. So first, right, the beast had been seized and captured. And the false prophet had been captured. In the last chapter, the beast, Revelation 19:20, the beast was captured, and along with him the false prophet who had performed the signs before him. Remember, the false prophet was the second beast that was described in chapter 13, the one who looked like a lamb, but he had horns and had the voice of the dragon. And so the beast and the false prophet would perform signs before him by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast, as well as those who had worshipped his image. Those two were thrown alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. So they were seized and thrown into the lake of fire. Now, too, the dragon has been seized. He's taken into custody. And he remains unwavering in his opposition to God, right? And here he's captured, and what we'll see later is even after a 1,000-year prison sentence, he remains. He's not rehabilitated. He's not. He doesn't humble himself before God. Right. He remains unwavering in his opposition to God on the other side of the millennium as well. And so his everything that he does, he's the father of lies. He works deception. So he has worked through social and political forces represented by the beast, represented by the false prophet, to create this illusion that his way is the right way, that his way is the winning way, that evil, that self-exaltation, that me firstness and all that it's invincible. But here, this scene marks a reversal. He's not invincible. Evil's not invincible. He's been seized. Satan the dragon made war against God's people, right? And they face the prospect of becoming captives, of being killed. But here the dragon is taken captive. Earlier he wore crowns, diadems to display his royal honor, but now he is reduced to being a disgraced prisoner of war. And he doesn't have the prestige of operating on the same level with God. Right? It's not the one on the throne. It's not even the Lamb. They're not equals. It's an angel. An angel would have been one of his equals. One of God's subordinates puts him in chains. The Lord doesn't himself come down and he sends his angels to take care of it, right? The dragon is not on the same level of God, which again puts him in his place, and he's bound for 1,000 years, which is an extraordinary, in Revelation, this is an extraordinary length of time. And so up to this point, here's the thing, it can be a literal 1,000 years. It very well may be. It seems that most of the other numbers, time periods, things like that, generally speaking, are symbolic. But either way, you can notice that to this point in Revelation, nothing compares with the 1,000 years of binding, right? It dwarfs all the other periods of time. It dwarfs the periods of binding of the saints, or the persecution of the saints, right? When Satan in chapter 2, it say he may indeed throw some of the saints in Smyrna into prison for 10 days, which is, again, I believe a symbolic number, but he himself is to be bound for 1,000 years, right? So it's a ratio of 100 years being bound for every day that he imprisoned the saints. And we see where the temple is trampled underfoot, and the beast speaks blasphemy for 42 months. The dragon is bound for 1,000 years. So for each year of that persecution, it's like 280 years of being bound for every year of persecution. And again, same thing with while the bodies of the two prophetic witnesses lie in the streets of the great city for 3.5 days. Well, he's bound for 1,000 years, 280 years for every day that they were of their humiliation. And while the 10 kings who serve with the beast, says they'll rule for an hour in chapter 17, he's going to be bound for 1,000 years. It's a ratio of 1,000 years of being bound to a single hour of rule for these kings. So with these believers, and we who read this book, and we look at periods of persecution and imprisonment, and again, as American believers, these are not things that yet we have had to face, but they are faced throughout the world and have been over the course of history. Periods of persecution and imprisonment and humiliation and even martyrdom, right? They lose their potency, their power over us, when we see from a different perspective that his demise is certain, right? We may suffer, not love our lives even unto death, right? But we will overcome. He'll be bound for 1,000 years. He threw, verse 3, he also threw him into the abyss and locked and sealed it over him, so that he would not deceive the nations any longer until the 1,000 years are completed. After these things, he must be released for a short while. So now the dragon he's cast into the abyss. In chapter 12, Michael threw him down out of heaven into the earth, and now he's been cast from the earth into the abyss by this angel. Look back at what the prophet Isaiah had written, which seems to coincide with some of this. In Isaiah chapter 24, verse 20, it says, "The earth reels to and fro like a drunk, sways like a hut. Its transgression is so heavy upon it that it will fall and never rise again. It will come about in that day, Adonai will punish the host of heaven on high and the kings of the earth on the earth. They will be gathered together like prisoners in the pit, and will be shut up in the prison, and after many days be punished. Then the moon will be abashed, and the sun ashamed, for the Adonai Tzevaot will reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and before his elders gloriously." So there seems to be foreshadowing of what's happening here, kind of in a expressed in a compact way in Isaiah. He threw him into the abyss and locked and sealed it over him. So this angel, both with the key, locks and places a seal upon the abyss. So he's in there. He's under lock and key. He's in solitary confinement, as it were. I don't know if he's solitary in there, but he cannot emerge. He cannot make his way out, right? Just as Yeshua is the one who has the key that who opens and no one can shut, and who closes and shuts and no one can open. And so he is Satan. God's intent, his plan here, is to completely cut Satan off completely for a specified period of time, with absolutely no access to earth, no chance of escape until the 1,000 years are completed. And the purpose of what's happening here, it says, in order that he might not deceive the nations until the 1,000 years have been completed, right? So that he would not deceive the nations any longer, or again, until the 1,000 years are completed. So we have within 2 verses a second mention of 1,000 years, which would kind of reinforce that this is an extraordinary period of time that serves the function of, this is a period of time in which the nations are not deceived by the dragon. The dragon and deception have gone hand in hand. And what we see, we get a picture here of just how impactful his deception has been on the earth. And, and at first when you read this, I don't know, at first it's a little bit surprising to see that when it says that he can't deceive the nations anymore. There was this idea at the end of chapter 19, right, that they had all been slain by the sword of Yeshua's mouth, right? The call had gone out to the birds. Revelation 19, "Come gather for the great banquet of God, to eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of generals, the flesh of mighty men, the flesh of horses and those riding on them, the flesh of all." Now, the word "men" is here, but it's not in the original language. It just is the flesh of all, both free and slave, both small and great. Verse 21, "The rest were killed with the sword coming out of the mouth of the one riding on the horse, and all the birds gorged themselves with their flesh." So then who are these mentioned in chapter 20, verse 3? Are they the remnants of the nations as a whole? The nations that opposed God, but for some reason, it's not as though the whole world came together for that battle, right? This is of kings and generals and armies, the armies great and small, slave and free, And so we see now those who came in opposition to God, who have followed the beast and the false prophet and the dragon, have been defeated, and so now the dragon is being shut away, so that he cannot deceive anymore. And so what we see here, even as Satan is being locked away, sealed away in the abyss, is this event that continues. Now, he's not yet. The beast is thrown into the lake of fire, right? The false prophet is thrown into the lake of fire, but right now he's put into the abyss for this 1,000 years. And we see, though, that this continues the story of the progressive, certain demise of evil. Right? This is the next step of Satan's certain defeat. That the one who has held captive becomes captive. The one who has bound becomes bound. Right? He will be destroyed. But first, he's held captive. First, he is bound. There can even be, in terms of perhaps the why of this is in God's justice, and this is step one of a binding the binder, imprisoning the one who has imprisoned. Now, so we up to this point, one form of Satan's activity has already been stopped, right? We saw in chapter 12, he was the accuser of in the heavens, in the heavenly place. He was the accuser of God's people before God's throne. But Messiah is exalted and Satan is expelled from heaven so that his influence now is limited to the earth. Right? And then a second form of his activity has been to deceive people. He draws people into the belief that that dominion belongs to the earth's destroyers rather than to the Creator and the Lamb. Right? And when the nations are deceived, they treat human authority as though it's God. They deify human authority. They follow the materialistic, the violent course of Babylon, the compromise. And so Satan's banishment from heaven, right, is now followed by an incarceration, right? He's imprisoned in the abyss, which stops his activity for 1,000 years. And so he cannot deceive the nations, and it uses this word eti, again or anymore. Just as we saw in chapter 12, verse 8, it used the same word saying that he had no place in heaven anymore. No more here can he deceive the nations until the 1,000 years are done. And so now John's readers, the original readers of Revelation, right? This vision, this imagery of Satan's certain demise, is a word of encouragement to those who are suffering in the moment, right? Here Satan had worked through, evil had multiple faces. He worked in multiple ways, expressing himself in multiple ways, right? He worked through those who had denounced believers, and so that they were, and we're told, look, God's not there for you. God's abandoned you, and the Lord says, they'll see, I'll make them come before me and know that I have loved you, right? But Satan has worked, he's been the accuser. He comes down and he's accusing through those who denounce believers, so that they're threatened with time in prison or even death. And we see the execution of Antipas in chapter 2. So in the face of that, it might have been tempting, and indeed it was tempting for believers to abandon their faith to preserve their lives. But this unveiling, right? The Lord, the book of Revelation, apocalypsis, means the unveiling. The Lord opens it up for us to see that the reason Satan is raging on the earth it's not because he's invincible, but because he's already been defeated in heaven, and his time is short. Right? Again, Revelation 12:10. The one who accuses them before our brothers, or excuse them before our God, day and night, chapter 12, verse 10, has been thrown out. He's been cast out. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, verse 12, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you with great rage, knowing his time is short. Again, he's raging not because he's invincible, not because he's all-powerful. He's already been defeated. He's been thrown to the earth. And so now, and his demise is certain. So now he's subjected to prison in the abyss, not for 10 days, but 1,000 years. And so Satan worked, right? He worked through direct fear. He works through fear and threat to threaten your lives. If you don't worship the beast, you'll die. And then he worked more subtly, deceptively, through teachings that encouraged compromise with idolatry, that weakened the people's commitment to walking the way of the kingdom, walking the way of God. They, rather than to lay down their lives and to lay down self-exaltation in the kingdoms of this world and to walk the kingdom of God way, he said, well, no, you can have both. That's the way he still operates. And so what we see here is just this affirmation. It's like the song we were playing at the beginning, is a song by Mercy Me, We Win. God will prevail, right? We win because we're in Messiah, because he wins. So the message to these suffering, beleaguered believers is this, is stand firm, is persevere. Continue to resist both the overt pressures and the subtle pressures to walk in the kingdom of this world way. Right? The enemy wants us. I mean, I don't. There's this analogy that I could make that if you're a Star Wars fan, that really does. There's this part where Luke is fighting, or he's dealing with Darth Vader, and I don't remember which. I think it's Empire Strikes Back. And when he starts to get angry and rage, the Emperor goes, good. Like, he wants him to be angry. He wants him to fight with the dark side of the Force. Right? Satan will seek to bait us, to tempt us to react to this world with kingdom of this world anger, to react to this world with the flesh rather than with the fruit of the Spirit. Right? And so when we walk, those who overcame, they walked the way of the Lamb who was slain. Right? They overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they walked the way of the Lamb. Right? Wherever the Lamb went, they went. It says about the 144,000, right? And they did not love their lives even unto death. That's the way of the kingdom of God. It's so counterintuitive. It's counter the kingdom of this world. It's the most unnatural way we could even think to walk. And so the message in the midst of when it starts to feel like, wait a minute, because my flesh, my nature is, it's native to the kingdoms of this world. This is its native homeland, but my spirit has been born anew. So my citizenship, right, is not here. I'm of a different kingdom. Right? So we are of a different kingdom. We are ambassadors from that kingdom. And so if an ambassador, in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 20, it says, we are Messiah's ambassadors. If someone's an ambassador, if you meet someone in the United States who is an ambassador, well, they've been stationed here from another country. They may be living here, but this is not their home. They may be stationed here for an unspecified period of time, but this isn't their home. So they're citizens of another place, but they're bringing the message of their king, of their ruler, to us, and vice versa. That's the way ambassadors work. Well, we are to walk the way of the king. And so persevere, because we are in a hostile kingdom. And we don't respond to hostility with hostility. We respond with the message, the way of our King. It's just to not love our lives, even to the point of death. What did Yeshua say? Matthew chapter 24, verses 9 through 13. It says, they will hand you over to persecution and will kill you. You will be hated by all nations because of my name. And then many will fall away and will betray one another and hate one another. Many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. Because lawlessness will multiply, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And so this is saying, look, Satan will be bound. But you've got to endure to the end. So Satan is locked up. He's sealed away for 1,000 years. And it says, this is God's will to. It uses this theologically significant phrase, until the 1,000 years has been completed. It uses this word telesthi, which is to be, has achieved its goal, has reached its conclusion. It's the same word when Yeshua on John chapter 19 verse 30. It's when he said, "It is finished." It's the same root word. It is the goal has been accomplished, right? Or in Revelation 10:7, in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he's about to trumpet, the mystery of God has reached its goal. Teleos, right? Has reached its goal, has accomplished its purpose, just as he declared to his purpose to his servants, the prophets. When the two witnesses, verse 7 of chapter 11, when they have telesosin, have finished their testimony, when it's completed, perfected, finished, right? We see this. Revelation 15:1, when it talks about the end of it, for with them God's wrath has, with the 7 plagues, God's wrath is complete, has reached its goal. So this, what God is, this 1,000 years is, he's bound away until the 1,000 years has accomplished its purpose, has accomplished its goal. What is that goal? Well, we don't fully know. It continues, and it says, again, Revelation 20, verse 3, it goes, after these things, Satan must be released for a small time, for a short while. Uses the word, the must be is a word, de, which is, it is necessary. That there's some, for some reason, this is necessary. Again, this is the hard part. Like, you're like, oh, it's not over yet. I mean, the beast and the false prophet, they're done for. What's the deal? Why does he get the 1,000 years and he's in prison and then he's released for a little bit? I mean, again, like I said yesterday, I can see how it lines up with the same reason the Lord even allowed the serpent to be in the Garden of Eden. Why did, so will we trust what God has spoken? But still, it's like, well, can it be over yet? And as difficult as a detail as this might appear at first, perhaps it's this. I don't know. Perhaps with the nations over the 1,000 years, which we'll talk about tomorrow, being given the opportunity to respond to the witness of Messiah and the resurrected believers, with the rule of Messiah, without the deceptive, there's no deceptive influence of Satan during this 1,000-year period, then it's almost as though there must be a testing of their faith, of their response. He's released, and we'll see that many follow, battle against the Lord, as many as the sand in the sea, it says. I'll close kind of here in just a moment, but one commentator, his name's Robert Mounts, he's a really reputable commentator, and he writes, it's futile to speculate just why there needs to be yet another conflict. I don't know. We just trust the wisdom of God. It's necessary. That's it. We trust him. He's wise, and we are not. And so we trust him. He says, Satan will gather. It's futile to speculate just why there needs to be yet another conflict. Satan will gather a following from around the earth and march on the beloved city. They're to be devoured by fire from heaven, but Satan will be cast into the lake of burning sulfur. He goes on, apparently 1,000 years of confinement doesn't alter Satan's plans, nor does 1,000 years of freedom from the influence of wickedness change humanity's basic tendency to rebel against their creator. So they are not the ones that have been given the transformed bodies, the ones that are ruling and reigning with him, those who have died and been and resurrected, the first resurrection. We are transformed, and so this is the one last. He gets to rage for one last little bit, whatever that may be. That's what we know. Here's what we know. It's just for a short while. It's just for a small time. So we know this. There's a little bit left in the chapter. There's a little bit left in the book. And Satan's certain demise is just around the corner. So persevere. Know that he's the father of lies. Know that he's a deceiver, that he makes deception look good. And fix your eyes on Yeshua and walk in his ways. Imitate him. Right? Ephesians 5:1-2. Be imitators of God as dearly loved children. And then it begins, chapter 2, or verse 2 says, talks about loving sacrificially the way he did. Don't just keep your eyes on him. Follow his example. When we step out of our doors today into a world that is broken and hurting and deceived, let's walk in truth and let's be a light. Let's be the truth in the midst of the lies. Let's be the light in the midst of the darkness. Let's not mix in all the deception into the truth, but let's bring the truth of who he is and the way that he is into a world that desperately needs him. Amen? All right. Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.
Just to know you haven't lied to at some point or place. Well, I can relate, and you're wondering if it's worth it. Heartbroken, feeling worthless, so the hurt is too great, like a punch in the face. But don't forget, we got something else in common, bigger than all our pain and all our problems. We get pushed down, we get beat up, so afraid life's gonna keep us up against the ropes. But hang on, there's hope, 'cause if Christ is inside us, it won't be a fair fight, 'cause deep down we know how the story goes. This goes out to anyone down for the count. It's not over, don't give up, don't throw in the towel. Just remember who you belong to. Let me remind you how. Yes, we were. Whoa, we were. We were. Whoa, we were. Ain't no stopping us. He's not done with us. We are more than